Welcome back to another episode of Yarns with Marns. It's honestly been about 2.5 years since I last said those words, but I've been wanting to start my podcast back up for a while, and I feel like the kind of podcast I did last time where I was just sharing my thoughts and things like that, I always have so many thoughts throughout every day, which I'm going to talk about in this podcast, in this episode. But yeah, we're back. The last time I put out an episode was April 2022, so 2.5 years ago. Since then, I've played 3 seasons for the Saints. I have been in a relationship, and then obviously gone through a breakup because I'm not in that relationship anymore. I was 22 back then, and now I'm 25. I've spent 6 out of those last 2.5 years, or 6 months out of those last 2.5 years traveling, and a lot of that was by myself. So learned a lot while I was overseas by myself, and I feel like I just have so many thoughts, stories, analogies and things that I want to really share and get back into the space. And this first episode back is going to be talking a little bit about what to expect and what I wish to do with my podcast, and how I see things looking, and kind of just a little bit of an update for people that have only really followed me on this platform, and kind of feel like I've been MIA. But it's probably the most frequently asked question I get is, when is Yarns with Marns going to start back up? And yeah, so I started this podcast back in 2021, end of 2021. I started this podcast back in 2020, the year I had off injured from basketball, and I used to just do episodes by myself. I had one guest on, that was my older brother Niwa, who's a professional wrestler based in England at the moment, but at the time he was home. So all those old episodes are still on my platforms throughout YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify and all that, so you can always check those out. But yeah, and then I stopped doing it for a while, I think while I started back at the Saints, and then I always had intentions of wanting to do it so I could interview my teammates and stuff like that, but I'm going to touch on a bit more in this episode why I haven't pursued it more. But and then I started it back up, I think in December 2021, and from there it was really good. I was putting out an episode a week, I was really enjoying it, and I really do enjoy doing this stuff, like creating content and documenting my life and stuff like that. So I was doing an episode a week until, if you remember back to those times, I kind of had some personal decisions where I was going to take the year off basketball for some certain things going on in the world. But because those things changed, I ended up coming back and playing basketball for 2022. And then when the season rolled around, I was just super busy and training twice a day, every day, as well as weights and all that stuff, and kind of just put the content and the podcast on the back, just stop worrying about it, or it wasn't my main priority at the time because I was coming back into basketball, so getting in shape and stuff like that was my priority. But I always had intentions of starting it back up, and here we are 2.5 years later. I was just in New York 2 months ago actually, and I was going to start it while I was there. It's probably the most, like, how when you overpack in your suitcase and your luggage, that was definitely the most pointless thing I packed, because I packed all my podcast microphones and the arm and stuff like that. But I just never got around to doing it, or I just kind of keep putting it off. And I guess one of the main reasons is because I never felt like I was ready, and I never felt like I had the perfect setup, and I wanted things to look a bit differently. But if you could see my setup right now, I'm sitting on a camping chair at home in the corner of my room. I've got a little ring light in front of me, and I was thinking, I remember when I first started, if you go back to my first ever podcast, like back in 2020, I remember saying this quote, and it said, if you gave Novak Djokovic a wooden tennis racket, he would still go out and dominate, because it's not about the equipment, but it's about what you do with it. So I was thinking, I don't feel ready, but I was thinking, you're never going to fully feel ready, so I really just want to start. So today, I got asked to do some things. Today, I'm recording this on the 10th of December, 2024, and I really just thought about yesterday. I was like, okay, I've been putting this off for so long, I really want to get back into my podcast, so I'm going to do it this week, and I'll release it on Thursday, which is the 12th of the 12th, 24, and my favourite number is 12, my favourite number is 24, so I was like, yep, perfect, that's going to be me. From then on, it's going to be 1 episode a week, and it's going to start off like this, just myself, for a while. I really enjoy doing these podcasts by myself, and I want to share a little bit more about this, but I always have so many thoughts, and I'm really big on journaling. And last time when I started my podcast, a lot of my episodes, they would only be maybe anywhere between 10 to 20 minutes long, would just be my journal entries or things that I was thinking about that were on my mind that I'll journal about, and I'd write those down, and then I'll talk about them in front of the camera, and that would be my episode. So I still journal and I still write down all my thoughts. So, well, not all my thoughts, but a lot of thoughts. So that's what this is going to be about again. And also, while I was overseas and just in general, I really enjoy walking actually. So while I was overseas, I would just walk for fucking all day. And while I'm walking, I tend to come up with some really deep thoughts, and I feel like I'm a deep thinker. And if you know me personally, you'll be able to confirm that. And I would just write down my thoughts on my notes app on my phone while I'm out and about, while I'm going for a walk. And so my notes app is just full of so many thoughts and ideas. And I thought, yep, I don't feel ready, but I have content or I have things that I want to talk about. And I feel like writing is not my best, is not my strength. For example, when I'm writing like Instagram captions, I never know what to write, but I always feel like I know what to say. So I was thinking, I remember watching Gary Vee back in the day. I still watch Gary Vee. He's been one of my biggest influences and I guess mentors in a way for getting into this space. And he always used to say, you know, some people learn better from video, some people learn better from voice, which is like podcasts and music and stuff like that, and then some people learn better from written, which is like blogs. And I feel like I produce better through using my voice, and that's why I enjoy doing vlogs with voiceovers. And I feel like I'm not really the best at writing things, so I write a lot on my phone because I understand it, and it's analogies that I will use that I can understand myself. But I feel like if I can use those notes to use my voice, which I believe is a strength of mine, then that's where my strength is. So getting back into this podcast is something I'm very excited for in that way, so I can feel like I can get my points across better throughout my voice. And I just enjoy this too. I just really enjoy human connection, and I feel like this is a way to connect with people, and this is a way for me to feel closer to everyone. That in a way, I guess, as a whatever you want to see me as, I don't like to put myself into a box or identify with many things, but if you see me as a basketball player, athlete, content creator, whatever you see me as, I feel like people put me, or put people in general, on a pedestal in a way. And anyone with some kind of motion, I guess, put them on a pedestal. And so I feel like people, when they put someone on a pedestal, they feel like that person is like out of touch, or sorry, like out of reach. But I feel so human, and I just want to feel like people can connect with me. So this is a great way that we can connect and share thoughts, and I'm always reading comments and messages and things like that. So I really, I take pride in hearing other people's perspectives and trying to be open-minded. So I feel like this is not just a podcast for me to share my thoughts, but for also people to come back and share their thoughts with me as well. So that's the vision I have for this podcast. But a lot of it is about documenting my life and my journey, and that's what I enjoy about the vlogs, is that these are always cool things to look back on. And sometimes I listen back to my old podcast episodes and I think that's cool because I still have some of those thoughts, like today as a 25-year-old, and I was doing those when I was 21, 22. So it's always cool to document the journey and post things online, and just like have these as storage, I guess. One day I'm going to have kids and I can show them what I got up to, or maybe they want to listen to my podcast. But so yeah, that's a little bit about what to expect, or what you can expect. But in the last 2.5 years, so much has happened. I travelled for 5 months at the end of 2022. I went to Australia, England, New York, Amsterdam in between. Came home, had so many just life experiences and things where I had to set boundaries and stand up for myself, and learnings. And a lot of my whole journey through this life, especially the last couple of years, has been about honouring my inner child and realising that my inner child, or who I imagine in my mind, is my 4-year-old self. He's not me. He is me. He's still within me. And I feel like every time I feel triggered by something, I always try and ask myself, what is that triggering from my childhood or from my 4-year-old self? Or any time I feel joy, or like my spirit feels alive, I'm like, yo, my 4-year-old self must have loved doing this when he was a young kid. So part of that is knowing, I think when I was 4, I always knew I would be doing something great in this world. Whenever things happen in my life now, it's not really like great things. It's not really a surprise, because I always felt like I've been worthy and destined for great things since I was a kid. And so I feel like it would be a dishonor, if that's a word, to my younger self to not express myself through these podcasts and to put myself out there, because what I've seen over the years is that vulnerability has been like my biggest strength, and I feel like some of these episodes and these some of these podcast episodes are going to get pretty deep, but that's cool because I'm definitely not a surface level person. I have a lot of deep thoughts, and I love deep conversations, and I love talking with people that are like-minded and sharing thoughts and ideas. So that's a little bit about that. But also in that last 2.5 years, I was in a relationship for officially for a few months, but I was seeing someone for 10 months, all up from start to end. And so I was in a romantic relationship, my first one in a few years, and I learned a lot about myself throughout that process. And we're not together anymore, haven't been since the start of the year. So learned so much about myself through the breakup, and a lot of my learnings lately in my life have been about, I feel like the most important question I've ever asked myself is, the 5 W's and the H: where, what, who, why, when, and how. I feel like out of those, the most important one for me is why. And I always ask myself, why am I this way? Why does this trigger that? Why did I react like that? Why do I feel this way when someone says this to me? So I feel like that's been the most important question for me. And since learning and healing through a breakup, I've just asked myself, why am I this? Why did, when my previous partner done this, why did it trigger me this way? And why did I react this way? And so I'm really just learning, and by asking myself those questions, that's how you learn on the go. And so I've learned so much about myself throughout that whole process, and still learning about attachment types, love languages, all that kind of stuff. And so I have so many thoughts in that way to share, and I like to think of it as I wear many hats. Like, I don't just, it obviously isn't just a podcast about basketball, or isn't just about mental health, or it can cover everything. I'm happy to talk about relationships. I've been going live a lot on TikTok lately, and I'm always, if you ever tuned into any of those lives, you'll see that I pretty much answer every question that pops up, because I wear many hats. I feel like I can cover lots of topics and things. So a big thing for this podcast again is going to be doing Q&A episodes, so questions that people have, answering those and seeing what people really want to know firsthand. Those are some of my favorite episodes. And so been traveling. I played 3 full seasons with the Saints since the last episode. I've been in a relationship, been through a breakup, learned so much about myself. I had to stick up for myself on a lot of times where I felt like I was by myself, and just so many learnings. And I guess I would feel rude, or like I'm being a disservice if I was to have all these learnings without sharing them. Because when I was younger, I was always, not younger, I'd say probably in the last few years or so, I was always a little bit insecure about my voice. I've talked about this in previous episodes. I always thought it was a little bit too soft, or it wasn't masculine enough, or whatever. And that was just my own thoughts, and that was my own ego. And I remember one of my friends, she did like a little tarot card reading for me, and she said, it's weird, I can see you using your voice a lot, whether that's in TED Talks or public speaking and stuff like that. And it's crazy because I've been doing public speaking for the past couple of years. I obviously did this podcast a few years ago, and I feel like it's crazy. My whole philosophy around insecurities is that the only way to get over them, or not the only way, but my way, is to embrace them. So I thought, it's crazy, I used to be insecure about my voice, and now I'm back doing my podcast again, which is using my voice. And I do vlogs with voiceovers that use my voice. And so I'm really trying to embrace all my insecurities, and that's how I learnt to not even get over them, but just be okay with them. Fuck it, I've got a soft voice or whatever, but what am I going to do about it? I got varicose veins in my legs. I always used to be insecure about them, and I'm like, fuck, stressing is not going to make them go away, or trying to hide them, whatever. Why don't I just embrace that? So for me, it's all about perspective in that kind of way. And so I'm just touching on all these points, but I'm going to share more about them in the episodes, because like I said, I have so many notes in my notes app, and so I just have so many thoughts and ideas that I want to talk about. But one more thing, I don't want to make this episode too long. I really wanted to just share about my intentions for starting back up, as well as I wanted to provide a little bit of value, and in whatever type of way that is. If this can help one person, then it was worthwhile. But the other thing is that I always wondered, it's hard with doing the vlogs and stuff like that, and podcasting, because you put yourself out there. And I always wondered, well, in recent months I've been wondering, how vulnerable do I want to be? and how much do I want to put myself out there. And I will be lying if I said that I didn't fear judgment from others, because it's definitely something that pops up probably daily in regards to vlogging, and I'm scared what people are going to think about me. But that's also another thing, is about embracing that shit. And I realized that it's because it's because I self-sabotage too much, and I sleep on my potential and my greatness sometimes, you know. I value myself so much, and I see myself as such a valuable spirit in this universe. And so I know I have so much great things to share, and I genuinely enjoy sharing my journey, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And I know people enjoy watching it too. But sometimes my ego creeps in and thinks, oh, don't post that, you'll look weird. And every day it's so hard doing that, posting, when your ego is creeping in and saying shit like that. But I honestly love it. It's like a bit of a game. I'm like trying to quieten my ego. I'm trying to win. I'm trying to get one over it. When my ego's telling me don't post that, you'll look weird or you'll look cringe, I'm like, no, fuck you, I'm going to post it. So that's where I've been at with that kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, this is cool. I feel like I'm really stepping in and just embracing my authentic self. And I found that, you know, the real ones in your life are going to stick around for who you really are, not for some facade or some, you know, some act you try to put on to make friends and things like that. So by me being my authentic self on here and throughout the vlogs, if people don't follow that, then that's amazing. I would rather you not, because at least you don't fuck with me for me being real. And my big thing is about just trying to be real, and knowing that you'll never ruin or jeopardize a real connection or a real relationship by being your authentic self. And so the other part of being how vulnerable do I want to be is in basketball. And I always thought, you know, if I share so deeply my thoughts and be super open and vulnerable about these things, then people could use this against me on the court. You know, say if I say some shit about my childhood and then I play a game and someone uses that as trash talk. But then I realized that that actually is more a reflection of them, and it's not actually a reflection of me. So I was so nervous to do this again, because I was like, fuck, people could always use this against me on court or trash talk. And I'm like, but I'm self-aware enough to know that, like, I know who I am. I know exactly what I bring to the table. I have a very strong sense of who I am. And so I feel like when you know that no one can really hold that stuff against you. So I feel cool about it. I'm like, and really that's only my own ego, because what I've seen to my face from other basketball players, opponents, teammates, all that stuff is only love, and only, well, you know, you get the little hate comment here and there, but what you realize about that is that's people's own insecurities being projected onto me. So I don't take it personally. In fact, I feel empathy for them in a way, because I'm like, damn, that person must be hurt. And so yeah, I have lots to share on that, but really was like nervous about people having leverage, I guess, over me on the basketball court. But then I realized, nah, I have a strong sense of who I am and what I bring to the table. So and by me embracing this stuff, that's how you help heal these insecurities. So yeah, that's a big thing for me, is embracing my insecurities. And yeah, I wrote down some notes for this episode that I want to kind of cover, but if you know me personally, you know I can talk. So you know I like to ramble a little, so hopefully this hasn't been too much ramble. But I'm easy, I can talk so easily. Someone asked me yesterday, are you shy or do you find it hard to connect with strangers? I'm like, no way, I can talk to someone straight away. And so I feel like jumping back into this podcast space is for me. I'm a very good talker. Well, I wouldn't say a very good talker, but I'm a confident talker, and this makes me happy doing this. So I'm actually so excited. I've actually been wanting to do this for so long. I've just been procrastinating. I've been wanting to do this for weeks. Someone asked me on my live the other week, when's your podcast going to come back? And this was like a month ago, and I said next week, because I was genuinely planning on doing it. But we're back for real this time. 10th of December today. This episode's going to come out in 2 days, so I can't wait for everyone to tap back in. And people have been telling me I fall asleep to your old episodes. When are you going to do new ones? Like, can you do an audio book? Because I love listening to your voice. I'm like, that's pretty dope, because it's crazy that there used to be an insecurity of mine, and now people, like, some people say they fall asleep to it. So that's pretty, it's not funny, but it's funny in a way. But yeah, now I'm fucking rambling for real. But yeah, I honestly have so much love for everyone that's been supportive of my journey, and not just with the content, but just basketball, everything. People that encourage me and send me nice messages when sometimes I'm feeling like I'm fearing judgment a little bit too much, or whatever the case may be in that way. But Yarns with Marns is back for real. And one thing I'm proud of myself for in the content space is that I've been a bit more consistent, and I feel like I used to post heaps and then just drop off the face of the earth for literally 2.5 years like this. So we back now. I'm feeling really confident and really happy to be back in this space. And back to what I was talking about at the start with my setup, I thought, no, actually, I'm just keep building and adapting my setup as we go. This is my first episode back and I'm on a camp chair, but I was like, maybe I'll get like a little nice chair where I can just dedicate this corner of my room to my podcast, my little podcast studio. So we back. Yarns with Marns is back. I really appreciate everyone for messing with me and showing love and just being supportive of my journey, because I feel like I'm very supportive of my own journey. So it just kind of just like confirms for me that I'm doing great things, even though I know it myself. So so much more to share. Please don't feel like, oh, you missed out talking shit, talking about things in this episode, because yeah, there's going to be an episode every week, sometimes maybe 2. I don't want to gas shit up, but 1 episode a week starting from next week after I post this one. Again, very grateful, very excited, so happy to be back here doing this. This makes me happy. I'm passionate about it, and I'll see you guys on Thursday when you see this episode. But it's all love. Hope everyone is doing great. And I used to say peace and love, but I don't really say that anymore. But peace and love anyway. I'll see you in the next episode.